Today we're going to learn about cubics and cube root functions. The cubic mother function looks like the graph on the left. As you can see, the domain and range are both negative infinity to infinity. This graph is always increasing, meaning when you read it left to right, the y values are increasing always. There's no maximum point, there's no minimum point. This graph is concave down up to here, and from negative infinity to 0, and then from 0 to positive infinity. The point where the concavity changes is called an inflection point. So this graph has an inflection point. No other graph has an inflection point so far that we've learned. The parabolas have maxes or mins. The cubic has an inflection point, meaning a point where the concavity changes. And if you look at the cube root function, it's very similar to the cubic function. The only difference is the concavity. Concave up from negative infinity to 0 and concave down from 0 to positive infinity. Has the same point, the same inflection point, the same domain range, increasing, no max min. It has the same properties of the cubic mother function. So they are similar. They look different. So just make sure you don't confuse them. But the cube root function, we have to talk a little bit about what the cube root of a number is. So the cube root of a number equals a number that when multiplied 3 times equals the number under the root. So for example, cube root of 8 equals 2 because 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. Cube root of 1 is 1 because 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. Cube root of 27 is 3 because 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Can you come up with your own cube root? And then you could check it with the calculator. I'll show you how. So let's go to calculate over here. And control caret sign. You can put a little 3 there for the cube root. And let's say you're thinking of maybe 64. Cube root of 64 equals 4. Because 4 times 4 times 4 should give us 64. And it does. So that's how the cube root works. Just like the square root, but instead of twice, you do it 3 times. And the properties for all the other functions that we've learned, all the transformations and stretches and reflections, also hold for these. So there's nothing new there. So sometimes they ask you to write equations of given graphs. And the hint here is to think, okay, what's the mother function for this graph? And so for this one, the first one, the mother function is the cubic, right? Cubic, 1 equal to x cubed. When x is 0, y is 0, because 0 cubed is 0. When x is 1, y is 1, because 1 times 1 times 1. 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. So the mother function looks like that. And then when x is negative 1, negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. So that's another point. So the mother function looks like this. So you see the inflection point of it has been moved right 1 up 2. So if you move a graph to the right 1, that means you're subtracting 1 from x. If you're moving it up, that means you're adding 2 to the whole function. So this is what it should look like. Okay. This one now, this one looks more like the cube root function, but it's upside down, or it's reflected in the x-axis, meaning it must have been multiplied by a negative number. So the equation for this is negative cube root of x. And that's pretty much it. You just need to know, most of this you'll do with the calculator, but the properties and the domain and the range and the meaning of cube root, you really need to focus on. That's it. Have a good